The restaurant hummed with soft music, hushed conversations, and the occasional clink of crystal glasses. Golden lights shimmered against dark wood panels, casting a warm glow over the long table where my team sat, laughing, eating, and celebrating. Tonight was supposed to be my night. For 6 years, I had poured everything into this company, staying late to clean up crises, smoothing over client disasters, training every new hire who walked through the door. I wasn't just an employee. I was the safety net they all leaned on. And my boss, Steven, made sure I knew it. "You're next in line, Kathy," he'd said just last month. "Keep this up and the senior project manager title is yours." So when the quarterly results party was announced, I knew tonight would be it. I imagined it 1,000 times. The announcement, the applause, the feeling of finally being seen. I glanced around the table, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. The team was in high spirits, celebrating a massive project success, one I had led from start to finish. At the head of the table, Steven stood, raising his glass and tapping it gently with a spoon. The chatter faded. My heart raced. "Tonight," Steven began, flashing his signature confident smile, "I want to recognize someone who's proven to be an incredible asset to our company. Someone who stepped up, delivered beyond expectations, and showed extraordinary leadership." He paused, sweeping the room with his eyes. My fingers tightened around my glass. This was it. In just 4 months, my smile froze. Steven turned toward Madison, the new hire, the girl I had trained personally, the one fresh out of college who hadn't even learned the client system before I spent weeks walking her through every detail. "Madison," Steven beamed, "you've outperformed every expectation. Your creativity, energy, and fresh perspective have made a huge impact on this company. I'm proud to announce your promotion to senior project manager." The room erupted into cheers and applause. I sat motionless. The congratulatory smiles, the clinking glasses, the pats on Madison's back, it all blurred around me. I forced a smile onto my face, lifted my glass, and toasted with them. Of course. Of course Madison deserved it. 4 months in, and apparently she had done more than I had in 6 years. I caught Steven's eye. He gave me a wink. "And of course, Kathy," he said loudly, "you've been such a valuable team player. We're all grateful for your dedication." Team player. The polite pat on the head for the loyal workhorse. I swallowed hard and raised my glass again. "To Madison," I said brightly. "Congratulations." Steven smirked, taking a sip. "Maybe you'll learn a thing or two from her, Kathy." A few people chuckled. Even Madison gave a soft, awkward giggle. I laughed too. What else could I do? 'Cause a scene? Ask him why he dangled a promotion in front of me for months only to humiliate me like this? I smiled, drank, and kept my composure. But inside me, something cracked. As the night wore on, I played the part, laughing, chatting, raising my glass when expected. But every smile felt thinner, every polite nod more mechanical. The storm inside me grew louder with each passing toast. When the dinner finally ended, I stepped out into the cool night air. The city lights blurred as I stared down at my phone. My hands trembled, not from anger, but from something deeper. Calm, controlled, strategic. I opened a new email draft. Subject, resignation, effective. Immediately, I typed the words slowly, savoring each one. "Dear Steven, please find my formal resignation attached. Effective Monday morning. Best, Kathy." I stared at the screen for a heartbeat and pressed send. A strange peace washed over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. But I wasn't done yet. I slipped my phone into my purse, squared my shoulders, and smiled. A real smile this time. On Monday, Steven would realize what happens when you push the wrong person too far. And I couldn't wait to watch his world fall apart. Monday mornings at the office always carried a certain buzz. Coffee brewing, keyboards clacking, the low hum of chatter in the break room. But that morning, as I walked through the glass doors of Halston and Company, the air felt different. I moved with slow, deliberate steps, taking in every familiar sight. The receptionist flashing her usual too bright smile, the interns scurrying around with clipboards, the soft hum of printers in the background. But today wasn't business as usual, because today, sitting in Stephen's inbox, was my resignation letter. I passed Madison near the coffee station. She flashed me a chipper smile, her freshly printed senior project manager badge clipped to her blazer like a prize ribbon. "Morning, Kathy," she chirped, almost too cheerfully. I smiled back. "Morning." She hesitated for half a second, maybe sensing something in my tone, before turning away. I took my time settling in at my desk. Neat as always, every file precisely organized. I logged into my computer, responded to 2 client emails, and printed out a final set of project reports. Reports that, after today, would be someone else's problem. And then, right on cue, Stephen's door swung open. "Kathy," he called, his voice sharper than usual. "My office now." The room fell into a hush, heads lifted over cubicle walls. Coffee cups paused mid-sip. I stood up slowly, smoothed the front of my blouse, and walked toward his office with the calm of someone walking toward a victory, not a confrontation. When I stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind me. Stephen sat at his desk, my resignation letter printed out neatly in front of him. His confident smirk from Friday night? Gone. He looked rattled. "You're resigning?" His voice was low, incredulous. I sat down across from him, folding my hands neatly on my lap. "Yes, effective immediately." Stephen leaned forward, shaking his head slightly. "Kathy, come on. This is sudden. We didn't even discuss this. I mean, why?" I gave a soft, almost amused chuckle. "We didn't discuss Madison's promotion either, but here we are." His jaw flexed, a tiny flicker of irritation breaking through. "That wasn't personal," he said quickly. "She just outperformed you." "After 4 months," I said, tilting my head. "But sure, if that's what you believe." Stephen's gaze dropped to the letter. He tapped it with his pen, tapping harder than necessary. "You've been with this company for 6 years, Kathy. You're an important part of this team. I don't want to lose you." I held his eyes for a long moment, searching for even a flicker of sincerity. There wasn't any, just fear. "You don't want to lose me?" I echoed softly. "But you had no problem overlooking me for a promotion I earned. No problem watching me get humiliated at my own celebration dinner. And no problem telling me to learn a thing or two from someone I trained." His mouth opened slightly, but I wasn't finished. "You made your choice, Stephen. And I've made mine." He exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of his desk. "Kathy, listen. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have handled things differently. But resigning out of nowhere? This isn't the smart move. You're making an emotional decision." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I sent that email on Friday night. If this was just emotion, I would have stormed out right then. But I didn't. I waited. And now, I'm walking out on my terms." His eyes narrowed slightly, the calculating look of a man used to having the upper hand. "So what's your plan?" he asked, his tone turning sharp. "Run to one of our competitors? Because don't forget, you signed a non-compete agreement." I gave a soft laugh. "Oh, Stephen." "I don't need to go to a competitor," I said, standing up smoothly. "While you were busy ignoring me, someone else wasn't." His eyes darted up. "What are you talking about?" I leaned in slightly. "You remember Daniel Rhodes, the COO you pushed out last year?" Stephen's expression darkened. "Daniel? He's starting his own firm. He offered me a director-level position, months ago. I turned it down back then. I was loyal. But Friday night changed everything." I met his stunned gaze head-on. "I called him after the party. I accepted." For a moment, Stephen said nothing, just stared like he was trying to process it all. "You're leaving for Daniel's firm?" he finally asked, his voice tight. I nodded. I start next Monday. His shoulders stiffened, his carefully crafted confidence cracking. Kathy, be reasonable. We can work something out. Let's talk about this. I gave a slow shake of my head. I don't want to talk. This is final. And with that, I turned toward the door. Just before I stepped out, I glanced over my shoulder. You know, Stephen, it's funny how people only realize someone's worth when they're walking away. Then I walked out, leaving him alone with the consequences. I didn't look back. When I stepped out of Stephen's office, the entire floor had gone unnervingly silent. I felt every pair of eyes on me, the curious glances over cubicle walls, the subtle shifts in posture as if people were trying not to stare but couldn't help themselves. I walked back to my desk with measured steps, letting the hush follow me like a shadow. No one spoke. Not yet. I sat down, opened my laptop, and drafted a simple, direct email to the leadership team. Subject: Official resignation notice. Effective: Immediately I am stepping down from my position at Halston & Company, effective today. It has been an experience I will not forget. Best, Kathy. I reread it once. Professional, brief, but the message underneath was loud and clear. I hit send. Seconds later, the first whispers began. Kathy resigned? Did you hear? Is this for real? The wildfire was spreading, and I didn't have to do a thing to fuel it. I started packing up my things, moving with quiet efficiency. No rush, no panic. Every motion deliberate. Folding a sweater, sliding a photo frame into a box, unplugging my charger. I was halfway through when Rachel, one of the few people I genuinely respected in this place, appeared at the edge of my desk. Her eyes were wide, her voice low. Kathy, is it true? I met her gaze and gave a small smile. Yeah, it's time. She exhaled, shaking her head. Wow, I get it. After Friday? But still, I didn't think you'd actually leave. I glanced toward Stephen's office, the door now firmly shut. Neither did he, I said softly. Rachel let out a half laugh, half sigh. He's an idiot. Everyone here knows you deserved that promotion. A few other coworkers had started hovering nearby, pretending to sort files or check emails. Subtle, but not subtle enough. They were listening. Even Madison. She peeked over from her desk, her eyes darting between me and Stephen's door. There was a hesitation in her gaze, a mixture of guilt, confusion, and something close to regret. For a split second, it looked like she wanted to come over. Say something. But she didn't. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. I smiled at Rachel. Don't worry, I'll be fine. She gave a small nod, her expression softening. I know you will, and honestly, good for you. I returned to packing the last of my things, and then my inbox pinged. Urgent meeting request. Stephen's subject: Let's talk time. 15 minutes from now, I stared at the message for a long moment. Desperate men do desperate things. I took my time walking back to his office. When I stepped inside, the door closed behind me with a quiet click. Stephen looked different. Gone was the cocky smirk, the casual arrogance. He sat hunched forward, hands clasped tightly on the desk, eyes darting toward the resignation letter in front of him. Kathy, he started, voice measured. Let's talk about this. I sat down across from him, folding my arms lightly. Talk about what? He sighed. You're making a rash decision. You've built something here. We can fix this. I'll match whatever Daniel's offering you. Salary, position, whatever you want. I tilted my head slightly, studying him. You don't even know what Daniel's offering me. Does it matter? He shot back. We can work something out. I'll make it worth your while. I held up a hand, cutting him off. You still don't get it. He frowned. Get what? I leaned forward. It was never about the money. It's about respect. Stephen's jaw clenched. I don't want to work at a place where I'm only valued when I threaten to leave. I don't want to stay where my worth is recognized only when you're afraid of losing control. He opened his mouth to argue, then shut it again. For the first time, I saw it. The flicker of doubt. The realization that maybe he'd made a mistake too big to fix. Kathy, be smart about this, he said, lowering his voice. You have a future here. I smiled. No, Stephen. I had a future here. You threw it away. I stood up, smoothing my blazer. This conversation's over. As I reached the door, I paused. You should take notes, Stephen, I said softly, echoing his own words back at him. Maybe next time you'll know how to treat the people who actually make your company run. And then I walked out. By Tuesday morning, the whispers inside Halston and Company had grown louder. I wasn't there to hear them. But the update still reached me, faster than I expected. I sat in my new office at Rhodes Consulting, a bright corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. My name was already on the door. Kathy Reynolds, Director of Operations. I hadn't even unpacked the last of my files when my phone buzzed with a message. Rachel, you would not believe what's happening here. I smiled, setting down my coffee. What now? I typed back. Her reply came instantly. Rachel, Stephen's scrambling. Clients are panicking because no one knows how to handle your accounts. Madison, she's drowning. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words sink in. It hadn't even been 24 hours, and already the cracks were showing. I typed back. Didn't Stephen say Madison outperformed me? Rachel, yeah. Turns out fresh ideas don't mean much when she doesn't know how to manage a crisis. I chuckled softly. This wasn't revenge. I hadn't lifted a finger. This was simply consequences. By noon, I had 3 missed calls from former clients I'd built long-standing relationships with over the years. I returned them all. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Kathy, we heard you left. Are you still consulting? Yes, I am. We're considering moving our account. Can we set up a meeting? One by one, they came. I didn't poach anyone. I didn't have to. They wanted to work with me, not Halston and Company. By Wednesday, word had started spreading beyond the office walls. Rachel messaged again. Rachel. Stephen called an emergency leadership meeting this morning. I think the board's on him now. Investors aren't happy about the client losses. I imagined it for a moment. The board grilling Stephen, the smugness draining from his face as he realized the empire he thought he controlled was built on people like me. I shook my head, returning my focus to the project in front of me. At Rhodes Consulting, everything felt different. In my first leadership meeting, Daniel leaned back in his chair, gave me a nod, and said, Kathy, I want you to take the lead on this operations overhaul. You've got the experience we need. No politics, no empty promises, no waiting for someone to notice my work. It wasn't about proving myself here. They already knew my value. By Thursday, another client reached out, one of Halston's biggest. I was reviewing strategy documents when my assistant poked her head into my office. Kathy, you've got a call. Dawson and Company. They said they used to work with you at Halston. My eyebrows lifted. Put them through. A familiar voice crackled on the line. Kathy? Mark Dawson greeted warmly. Heard you've moved. Let's talk. A slow smile spread across my face. Of course, Mark. What can I do for you? Another account shifted, then another. By Friday afternoon, Daniel dropped by my office, grinning. 3 major accounts this week? Not bad for your first 5 days. I laughed, shaking my head. Guess people are tired of being overlooked. He gave me a knowing look. So were you. I nodded. Yeah, but not anymore. That evening, as I packed up for the weekend, another message from Rachel lit up my phone. Rachel, Stephen's losing it. Madison can't handle the pressure. The board's furious. Investors are pulling back. This place is falling apart. I stared at the message, a strange mix of emotions washing over me. I hadn't wished failure on anyone. But this was the result of arrogance, of thinking people are replaceable. Stephen underestimated me, overestimated himself. Now, he was learning the hard way. And I was exactly where I belonged, surrounded by people who valued me, building something real. I slipped my phone into my bag, smoothed my blazer, and walked out into the evening air. No bitterness, no regret, just peace. And maybe, just maybe, a quiet sense of justice. Friday afternoon was quiet at Rhodes Consulting. Most of the team had already left for the weekend, their laughter echoing faintly down the halls as I organized the last of my notes for Monday's leadership meeting. I was reviewing a proposal draft when my inbox pinged. I almost ignored it. But then I saw the sender, Stephen Harper subject, a proposal. I raised an eyebrow, opened it. Kathy, I'd like to discuss a possible arrangement. I believe we can find a solution that benefits both of us. Let me know when you're available next week for a meeting. Looking forward to hearing from you, Stephen. I stared at the screen for a long moment, a soft laugh escaping my lips. So, this was what desperation looked like. The same man who had dismissed me, humiliated me, and told me to learn a thing or two from Madison, now wanted to discuss an arrangement. I closed my laptop slowly, letting the irony settle over me like a warm breeze. For the first time in 6 years, I was the one holding all the power. I crafted my reply carefully. Calm, professional, in control. Stephen, I'm available for a brief meeting Monday at 10 a.m. Please let me know if that works for you. Best, Kathy, no rush. No eagerness. I hit send and leaned back in my chair. I wasn't walking into that meeting to negotiate. I was walking in to watch him squirm. Monday morning came crisp and clear. I walked into Halston and Company's lobby with a confidence I hadn't felt in years. The receptionist's smile faltered when she saw me, caught between greeting me and wondering if I was a ghost. I gave a polite nod and walked past her. The whispers started almost immediately. Is that Kathy? Why is she here? I didn't flinch. Stephen was waiting in his office, the door slightly ajar. When I stepped inside, I almost didn't recognize him. The man who had once been the definition of smug authority now looked pale, drawn, dark circles under his eyes, hands fidgeting with a pen that clicked over and over in his grip. Kathy, he said, forcing a smile. Thanks for coming in. I sat down, crossing my legs with slow precision. Of course. What's on your mind? He leaned forward, clasping his hands together on the desk. I won't waste your time. We need you back. I stayed silent, letting the words hang between us. We underestimated your role here, Stephen continued. I'll admit that, but we can make this right. If you come back, I'm prepared to offer you a substantial raise, a senior executive title, and full decision-making authority over your department. He sat back, clearly expecting me to be impressed. I wasn't. I tilted my head slightly. So let me get this straight. You had 6 years to recognize my value. 6 years to promote me. 6 years to treat me with respect. I paused, watching his jaw tighten. But instead, you gave my promotion to someone with 4 months of experience and told me to take notes. He looked away, lips pressed into a tight line. And now, after losing key clients, watching your company unravel, suddenly you realize how valuable I am? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I gave a soft, almost pitying laugh. That's what I thought. Kathy. He tried again, leaning forward, voice low and urgent. Be smart about this. You've built a future here. You want to throw all that away for some startup that might not even survive? I smiled. A real one this time. That startup is being run by people who value my contributions, and I'd rather bet on myself than stay somewhere I'm only appreciated when I'm halfway out the door. His eyes darkened, his grip tightening on the pen. Kathy, we can fix this. I stood up, smoothing my blazer. No, Stephen, you broke it. I turned to leave, pausing just at the door. You should have thought about this before you handed my future to someone else. I met his eyes one last time. Maybe next time you'll learn to value the people who actually make your company run. And I walked out, feeling lighter with every step. I didn't look back. 2 weeks passed before I heard the news. It came on a quiet Friday afternoon, just as I was wrapping up a client strategy session at Rhodes Consulting. My phone buzzed on the corner of my desk, Rachel's name flashing on the screen. I picked it up, expecting another office update, maybe a bit of gossip about Madison struggling to keep up. But what I read made me laugh out loud. Rachel. Stephen just got fired. The board forced him out this morning. They couldn't recover from the client losses. I stared at the message for a moment, letting it sink in. Stephen, fired. The man who had once believed he was untouchable, the king of Halston and Company, was gone. Not because I'd sabotaged him, not because I'd plotted revenge, but because he underestimated the wrong person. And now, his own choices had come full circle. I typed back. Guess they finally realized some people aren't replaceable. Rachel's reply came with a laughing emoji. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. I set my phone down, a quiet sense of peace settling over me. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. This was about respect. About standing up when you're overlooked, underestimated, and treated like you're disposable. Stephen thought people like me would always stay. Grateful, loyal, silent. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Sometimes, walking away is the most powerful move you can make. By Monday morning, the fallout from Stephen's departure had rippled through the industry. I heard it on client calls, at networking events, even in passing conversations at the cafe near our office. Halston? They're losing people left and right. I heard their board forced the CEO out. Apparently their best accounts jumped ship. And in every whisper, my name surfaced. Not in scandal, not in anger, but in quiet respect. Kathy Reynolds, the one who walked away and didn't look back. At Rhodes Consulting, things thrived. Our client roster nearly doubled in a month. Daniel brought me into high-level strategy meetings, and for the first time in my career, I wasn't fighting to be heard. People listened. People respected me. People trusted me. I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I'd earned it. One afternoon, as I stepped into a leadership roundtable, Daniel caught me at the door. Got a second? Of course. He gave me a small, knowing smile. Stephen called me. I blinked, surprised. Really? Daniel nodded. Wanted to see if there was a place for him here. Said he admired what we were building. I raised an eyebrow. And? Daniel shrugged, almost amused. I told him we don't have room for people who don't value their team. I let out a quiet laugh. Good call. Daniel nodded once more. And Kathy, I'm glad you're here. You've been a game changer. I met his eyes and offered a genuine smile. Thank you. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And for the first time in years, I truly believed it. Looking back now, I realize that Stephen never really understood leadership. He thought it was about control, about power, about sitting at the top while everyone else carried the weight. But leadership isn't about control. It's about trust, respect, and valuing the people who help you succeed. The ones who show up early, stay late, fix the problems no one else sees, and never ask for applause. Because when you fail to see them, eventually they'll stop waiting for you to notice. And when they walk away, you'll find out the hard way. They were never the ones who needed you. You needed them. I packed up my things for the day, stepped outside into the crisp evening air, and smiled to myself. This wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the start of something entirely new, and this time, I wasn't waiting for anyone to hand me a seat at the table. I'd built my own, and I wasn't looking back. They called him Dylan. Mid-30s, fresh MBA, hair gelled into submission, and a LinkedIn headline that screamed change agent. The kind of guy who quoted Steve Jobs and thought disruption meant replacing the coffee machine with oat milk only. I first met him on a Wednesday. I was halfway through finalizing a federal compliance report, the kind of paperwork you don't touch without gloves and a license. When Dylan waltzed into the open-floor bullpen with the confidence of a man who had once read Harvard Business Review on a plane. "Hi, team," he beamed, flashing a smile that probably cost $3,000 in Invisalign. "I'm here to shake things up, streamline operations, and cut inefficiencies." I didn't even look up, but I felt his eyes hover over me like a drone on a power line. The CFO trailed behind him, fake smiling, whispering something about empowering leadership. Corporate 4, we're letting the new guy swing the axe before the real boss gets back from his 3-week yacht trip. By lunch, Dylan had already renamed half the Slack channels, posted an efficiency challenge on the company bulletin board, and called me into his glass-walled office for a quick chat. "Hey, Tessa, right?" He didn't wait for my answer. "I've been looking over the org chart and, well, I noticed you're kind of everywhere." He grinned like he'd caught me stealing office pens. "Legacy roles can sometimes clog the system. You've been here how long?" 8 years, I said, flat. "Wow, that's a lot," he replied, the way someone talks about a VCR they found in their grandma's attic. "Listen, I really value institutional knowledge, but moving forward, I'll be streamlining compliance oversight. Reallocating responsibilities. Reallocating. Translation. You're out." I didn't blink, just leaned forward slightly. "You're the acting manager now?" He nodded, chest puffed. "Yep, and I want to foster a lean, agile culture. You understand?" "Oh, I understood." I smiled. The kind of smile you give right before you step off a landmine, after making sure everyone else is still standing on it. "Of course," I said. "If you need anything signed, just let me know." He waved his hand. "I'll loop in HR. They'll handle the, formalities." By 4 p.m., I had a meeting request in my inbox. Subject line, transition conversation. Classic. I showed up in the HR office, nodded through the empty platitudes about company direction and nothing personal, and signed the termination paperwork without a word. They slid over a glossy exit packet. No severance, no explanation, just a pen and a pre-printed form. I signed in one stroke and walked out without a backward glance. I don't think Dylan even realized I was gone until 2 days later. When procurement flagged a hold on 3 critical shipments for lack of authorized compliance officer approval, when finance emailed an internal alert, licenses pending invalidation per Section 9B, and when the company's main operating license, the one tied exclusively to my certifications, was formally marked as revoked pending reauthorization. Per my signed agreement, all company-paid certifications became void upon termination. And Dylan? He hadn't read the contract. Monday morning arrived with the grace of a heart attack in a boardroom. I sat at home in sweatpants, sipping coffee, scrolling through LinkedIn, watching Dylan's carefully curated leadership journey post about embracing hard decisions gain exactly 3 likes, 2 from interns, 1 from his mom. And then the real fun began. An all-staff email from legal. Subject line, urgent compliance review, mandatory attendance. Sent at 7:12 a.m. I could practically hear the sirens blaring from my apartment. Because when the CEO walked in later that morning, fresh from his Monaco yacht trip, sun-kissed, espresso in hand, and asked, "Why the hell did you fire Tessa?" The silence that followed was louder than any siren. By the time the CEO's voice echoed through the glass atrium, the entire operations wing froze like deer in fluorescent headlights. Gregory Winslow, 56, leather tan, rumored to play golf with senators, wasn't the kind of man who raised his voice often. When he did, careers quietly died. Dylan stammered something about streamlining and modernizing compliance structures. Gregory cut him off with a single look. You fired the person with sole federal compliance authority? Dylan opened his mouth, closed it. Around them, the room shifted. Managers pretended to check their phones. Assistants shuffled papers that didn't need shuffling. Gregory turned to legal. Is this true? The legal director, Mark, the kind of man who wore pocket squares like armor, cleared his throat. We were told it was part of an efficiency initiative. Gregory gave a dry laugh. Efficiency. He stared straight at Dylan. Did you even read her contract? Dylan straightened up like a student trying to impress a teacher who caught him cheating. It was a standard termination. Section 9B, Gregory snapped. Company-paid certifications void upon termination. Regulatory compliance licensing immediately invalidated. Which means, Mark finished for him. We are non-compliant. Effective the moment she signed the exit paperwork. Silence. You could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. The junior compliance analyst, I think her name was Renee, muttered, almost too quietly, the license can't be reinstated without her credentials. Gregory blinked. How long would that take? Renee hesitated. 4, maybe 6 weeks, assuming she agrees to come back and reapply, assuming the federal board accepts it. Gregory exhaled, slow. Has anyone called Tessa? HR chimed in, voice shaking. We sent a follow-up. She hasn't replied. Gregory turned on his heel and pointed straight at Dylan. You have 12 hours to fix this. Dylan gave a tight nod. The kind you make when you realize your parachute is just a backpack. I wasn't even home when Dylan's email hit my inbox. Subject line, let's discuss a path forward. Excited to collaborate. I was at brunch. Eggs Benedict, bottomless mimosas, and a view of the city skyline. I opened the email on my phone between sips of champagne. It was packed with corporate nonsense. Realize your value. Want to align our visions. Opportunity for growth. I scrolled straight to the bottom. Offer, return in a consulting capacity. 6 months. Reduce salary, but with performance incentives. Plus a mutual NDA. Of course. I smiled. Flagged it. Didn't reply. By 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I answered on the 3rd ring. Tessa, hey, it's Dylan. His voice dripped with forced cheer, the sound of a man tap dancing over broken glass. Hi, Dylan, I said, slicing a strawberry on my dessert plate. Listen, about the transition, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Totally my fault. I was thinking maybe we could... Dylan, I cut in, sweetly. I don't come back to fires I didn't start. Silence. I let it hang. Sure. Yeah. I get that. It's just, Greg really wants this sorted. And you're kind of critical to operations. I took a bite of my dessert. Am I? Another pause. Tessa, I'm asking you as a colleague. Please, I need this. I actually laughed. Software polite. Good luck, Dylan, I said, and hung up. The next morning, the email leak hit LinkedIn. An anonymous post from inside sources. Company scrambling to recover critical licenses after key compliance officer terminated. Within hours, vendors started pulling inquiries. By noon, a Fortune 500 partner suspended their contract. Gregory's assistant sent me a LinkedIn connection request. I declined. By Wednesday, rumors swirled that Gregory himself was considering a public statement. A legal crisis team had been flown in. Operations were officially on hold. And Dylan? He'd been demoted, quietly, to project coordination lead. No team. No office. Just a shared cubicle near the copier. I watched it unfold from the rooftop of a hotel bar, nursing a cocktail. Not because I needed revenge, but because some lessons need to be learned the hard way. Thursday morning arrived wearing a 3-piece suit and a storm cloud. The board of directors called an emergency session, not via email, not over Zoom. In person, at headquarters. The kind of meeting where careers aren't discussed. They're dissected. Gregory opened the session with his usual charm, which meant exactly 3 minutes of pleasantries before the gloves came off. Gentlemen, ladies, we have a problem. He gestured toward the projected dashboard on the wall. It wasn't a dashboard anymore. It was a crime scene. Red flags, compliance failures, vendor alerts blinking like heart monitors flatlining. The head of risk management cleared his throat. This isn't just an operational hiccup. We're in breach of contract on 8 vendor agreements and 3 federal supply chains. Gregory nodded once. And the licensing authority? Legal slid a file across the polished table. Still revoked, all tied to Tessa. Every single active certification under her name remains invalidated. The CFO, Marla Jennings, known for turning blood into spreadsheets, leaned forward. How the hell did we let this happen? All eyes turned to Dylan. He shrank back in his chair, suddenly fascinated with his watch strap. I was under the impression the licensing could be transferred. Our internal document said... Gregory slammed a hand flat on the table. The documents? You fired the one person who was the document. Silence thickened, the kind that clings to walls and careers alike. The chairman, Mr. Hargrove, white hair, colder eyes, and steepled his fingers. Was there no oversight on this termination? HR chimed in, voice brittle. We processed the request per Dylan's directive. We assumed due diligence. Hargrove cut her off. You assumed? His voice sliced sharper than any blade. Gregory exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I'm not here to clean up assumptions. I'm here to fix this mess before every client we have walks out the door. He turned to Dylan. You're on leave, effective immediately. Dylan looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. But I can... Out! One word. That's all it took. Dylan stood up, knocking his chair against the marble floor. He left without grabbing his laptop. An hour later, Dylan's access was revoked. His keycard didn't work. His email bounced back. The board wasted no time. Gregory sent a formal request to me, direct from his office. Subject line: Proposal for immediate return, Executive Compliance Consultant. Attached was an offer sheet. 6-month term. Full executive authority over compliance operations. Salary, double. Bonus, guaranteed. And of course, a bulletproof non-disclosure agreement. I read it once, twice. Then I let it sit in my inbox. All day. I didn't respond. By the following morning, vendors started calling me. Some directly. Some through LinkedIn. Some through mutual industry contacts. One even sent a gift basket. Apparently, the rumor mill said I was considering joining a competitor. I wasn't. Yet. But it's amazing how fast a company's power crumbles when the person holding the keys lets go. Gregory tried calling me personally. 4 times. I answered on the 5th. Tessa, he started, voice controlled. I want to make this right. I leaned back in my chair, swirling my coffee. You want to make this right? Because it's right? Or because your shareholders are sharpening their knives? He paused. Smart man. He didn't lie. A little of both. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Good luck with that. And I hung up. That afternoon, an anonymous tip landed on a financial watchdog's desk. Alleged compliance negligence, federal licensing voided, potential breach of public safety protocols. Guess who the whistleblower wasn't? Me. You see, when a company runs on arrogance and blind ambition, it tends to create its own enemies. I didn't need to lift a finger. I just needed to stay out of the blast radius. By Friday, the internal memo leaked. Subject: Critical Risk Mitigation Strategy, Immediate Restructuring. Dylan was listed in the footnote. Role dissolved due to performance-based evaluation. Performance-based. That's corporate code for we just realized you blew up the building and now we're handing you the bill. I wasn't celebrating. Not exactly. But I wasn't crying either. Because here's the thing about being underestimated. They never see you coming. but they sure as hell notice when you're gone. Monday morning hit like a silent alarm clock. No dramatic headlines, no corporate memo leaks, just a quiet panic pulsing beneath the surface of the city's financial district. I could feel it in the way my inbox started humming before sunrise. Gregory sent a follow-up. Subject line: "Let's find a solution. Name your terms." He even included a personal note this time. "Tessa, I respect your position. I value what you've built here. Please let me know how we can bring you back on board. At your full discretion. Happy to discuss any arrangement that works for you." Translation: "We're bleeding out and you're the only tourniquet in town." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to a private folder I titled Receipts. By noon, Gregory upped the ante. A legal proposal. Drafted, signed, and couriered to my apartment door. It offered full executive status, oversight of all compliance departments, globally, profit-sharing options, a blank check on salary negotiation, and a handwritten note in the margins. "We need you. Please." For a man like Gregory Winslow, who once allegedly fired a VP over a lukewarm espresso, this was the corporate equivalent of crawling. I took a photo of the letter, added it to Receipts, and still didn't reply. That afternoon, a headhunter from Biocore called. They weren't subtle. "We heard about the situation." Polished voice, polite interest. The kind of recruiter who doesn't reach out unless your name's already passed through 10 boardrooms. "We'd like to offer you a seat on our Executive Compliance Council. Full autonomy. Compensation package. Well, you'll like it." I leaned back on my couch, flipping through channels. "Why now?" I asked. She chuckled. "Let's just say we like to hire talent when it's in high demand." Translation: "We saw your old company implode and we want to make sure we're not next." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. By Wednesday, the financial news picked up the story. Headlines danced across LinkedIn and industry newsletters. Major compliance breakdown hits. Winslow Enterprises, licensing crisis looms. Key officer departure triggers federal investigation. Did poor leadership sink Winslow's compliance chain? My name wasn't mentioned, but it didn't need to be. Everyone in the industry already knew. Gregory tried one last Hail Mary. Thursday morning, 7:43 a.m. A town car pulled up in front of my building. A driver stepped out, handed me a sealed envelope, and nodded. "Mr. Winslow's personal request." Inside? A handwritten letter? "Tessa, I won't insult your intelligence with more offers. You've proven your point, and I respect that more than you know. The company can't function without you. If you're willing, I want to meet. No contracts, no HR. Just a conversation, dinner, Friday, La Rive, my treat." Gregory. I actually laughed. La Rive. The kind of restaurant where appetizers cost more than my monthly rent when I first started. But I wasn't tempted, because I knew exactly what this was. Not a peace offering. A power play. Gregory's last shot at spinning this as a personal misunderstanding, to save face before the board. I folded the letter once, dropped it into the trash. By Friday, the cracks became craters. 3 vendors filed breach of contract claims. Federal inspectors flagged 2 license renewals as invalid. Stock price dropped 6% overnight. And Gregory? He was photographed leaving the building through the side entrance. No limo. No entourage. The king was bleeding, and no one wanted to be caught holding the sword. I wasn't gloating, but I wasn't apologizing either. Because some lessons don't come with memos or management seminars. They come when you realize you fired the wrong person, and she didn't just walk away. She locked the door behind her. It started with a press release. Corporate language dressed in business casual. Just vague enough to sound harmless, just pointed enough to shift blame. Winslow Enterprises is proactively restructuring compliance operations to align with evolving industry standards. We remain committed to excellence and transparency. Translation? We're choking, but please keep investing anyway. The release hit the wires at 8 a.m. Friday morning. By 8:03, every investor with half a brain saw straight through it. By 8:15, the first media outlet cracked the story open like a walnut. Winslow's compliance failure. The untold story behind the license scandal. They named names. Dylan's, mostly. Gregory's, too. They even used the phrase, reckless leadership. Not mine, though. I wasn't mentioned. But my absence? That was the loudest part of the story. By noon, Dylan's LinkedIn profile was locked. His bio scrubbed. His corporate achievements wiped clean like an etch-a-sketch under a toddler's tantrum. The official story? Pursuing new opportunities? Unofficially? HR packed up his desk while he sat in a windowless office, signing his exit paperwork. They didn't even give him the courtesy of a Zoom farewell. Gregory's strategy shifted from control to survival. That afternoon, he issued a company-wide memo. Subject line, "Together, we overcome challenges." I read it while sipping a cold brew. It was every cliché in the corporate crisis handbook. We're stronger together. Proud of this team's resilience. Committed to moving forward. And then, tucked neatly in paragraph 5, we've reached out to former leadership to explore collaborative solutions. Former leadership. That was me. They didn't dare name me, but everyone knew. And judging by the 10 pings I got from former colleagues within an hour, the entire company knew too. Gregory wasn't done. That evening, a request landed in my inbox. From legal, marked, confidential, CEO directive. They wanted me to sign a statement. A brief, polite affirmation that I had parted ways with Winslow amicably and in full mutual respect. No money, no strings, just my name. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes. They didn't want me back. Not really. They wanted my signature to patch the hole in their sinking ship. I drafted my reply carefully. Subject, confidential statement request. Gregory, appreciate the outreach. I've reviewed your request. Unfortunately, I don't sign fiction. Best of luck. Tessa, I hit send. Didn't reread it. Didn't care to. By Saturday morning, the investors had enough. Emergency shareholders meeting, closed doors, no leaks. But I didn't need insider info to know how it went. Because Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a new LinkedIn connection. Gregory Winslow. No message, no note. Just a silent digital olive branch from a man who'd just watched the empire he built start to crumble in real time. I didn't accept. I didn't ignore it either. I left it pending, right where it belonged. Meanwhile, BioCore made their move. A formal offer, signed by their CEO position, head of global compliance strategy, direct report to the board, equity package included. No buzzwords, no performance incentives, just respect. And a line at the end that sealed it. We believe compliance is built on people, not policies. I took a deep breath. And finally, I said yes. That afternoon, I packed my things. Not from an office. From my life tied to a company that only valued me when it was too late. I wasn't leaving bitter. I wasn't leaving angry. I was leaving because I finally understood something most people never do. Your value isn't measured by how loud you shout. It's by how quiet it gets when you're gone. 3 weeks after I signed with BioCore, the news broke. Not a leak. Not a rumor. A full-page feature in the industry's most respected journal. BioCore secures federal compliance officer. Former Winslow exec leads new era. My photo wasn't on the cover, but my name? Front and center in the opening paragraph. I didn't post about it, didn't share it, didn't even like it. But within hours, the congratulatory messages rolled in. Old colleagues, former clients, even a few from competitors I hadn't spoken to in years. And then, the message, Gregory Winslow. Subject, congratulations, no body text, just one word in the subject line. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was acceptance. He finally understood. But by the time realization comes knocking, it's usually too late to open the door. Meanwhile, Winslow Enterprises kept bleeding. One by one, their biggest clients walked. Not with press releases, not with dramatic exits, just silent contract withdrawals and quiet partnership dissolutions. Their licensing backlog? Still in review. Federal approval pending. Audit flags stacking up like unpaid invoices. Gregory stepped down by the end of the quarter. The board called it a strategic leadership transition. Translation? They tossed him overboard before the ship hit the rocks. And Dylan? Last I heard, he was freelancing. Some buzzword-laden consultancy gig pitching agile compliance solutions to startups desperate enough to listen. No hard feelings. Some people never learn. And some lessons aren't yours to teach. As for me, I moved into my new office on the 34th floor of BioCore's headquarters. Glass walls, quiet power. No one questioned why I was there. No one asked me to justify my worth. They already knew. And I made sure of one thing. The team I built? I valued them before they became critical. Not after. Because respect isn't a lifeline you toss when you're drowning. It's the foundation you lay before the storms hit. I caught myself watching the city skyline one evening, long after the office had emptied out. The lights below flickered like the heartbeat of a city always chasing the next big thing. I thought about Gregory, about Dylan, about the HR reps who'd slid that glossy termination packet across the table like it was a menu. And I realized they didn't lose because I left. They lost because they never believed I'd leave. They assumed silence meant consent. That being essential meant I'd always stay. That loyalty could be exploited without cost. They learned the hard way. The only thing worse than losing a key player is realizing you pushed them out yourself. The next morning, I walked into my office. On my desk, a single manila envelope. No sender, just my name, handwritten. Inside, a note, in case they ever forget. And a printed copy of Section 9B of my old contract, the clause that started it all. I smiled, pinned it to my bulletin board. Not as a trophy, not as a warning, as a reminder. Because here's the truth no management seminar will ever teach you. The people who build the foundation of a company are rarely the ones you see on stage. They're in the background, they're silent, they're steady, until they're not. If you've ever been overlooked, undervalued, underestimated, let them. Let them think you're replaceable. Let them laugh behind closed doors. Let them call you legacy, outdated, too loyal, too quiet. Because when the day comes, and it always does, they'll realize you weren't holding them back. You were holding them together. And when you finally walk away, that silence will speak louder than any revenge ever could. Thank you for sticking with me through this story. If you've ever been in Tessa's shoes, or are in them now, know this. Your worth isn't defined by their ignorance. It's defined by your ability to walk away without looking back. And trust me, they'll remember you, even if you never say a word.